You're in the kitchen, and your toddler suddenly melts into a sobbing, rigid, noisy puddle on the floor. Your brain starts racing. Do I pick them up? Ignore it? Bribe? In this video, we're going to unpack the Danish secret to calm kids' tantrums in 30 seconds. A simple but efficient way to respond that comes straight out of Danish-style parenting and that calm, cozy family culture they're known for. Let's start with something the Danes do before they even touch a technique. They completely reframe how they see tantrums. In a lot of places, we call it the terrible twos, or the three-nager. The label itself makes it sound like a phase we just have to survive. Danish parents don't talk that way. They tend to see this age as the boundary-pushing phase or the independence phase. Same behavior, totally different story. Instead of, my child is being awful, they think, my child is learning where the edges are. That's their job right now. That shift matters because it changes your energy in the moment. When you expect your toddler to experiment with no, grab toys, or fall apart when you say it's time to leave, you're not shocked. You're not insulted. You're prepared. Underneath that positive spin is something very simple. Their brain is still under construction. The emotional part of the brain, the part that screams danger when something feels wrong, is strong and fast. The thinking part, the bit that understands language, logic, and consequences, is slower and not fully wired yet. The skills that help a child pause, shift gears, and cool down, things like impulse control and flexible thinking, are part of what researchers call executive function. And Harvard's child development team describes these skills as building rapidly in early childhood and continuing to develop over many years. So when your child doesn't get the blue cup, or has to stop playing, or hears the word no, their emotional brain can flip into a kind of survival mode. To them, it doesn't feel like a small disappointment. It feels like something huge and wrong and urgent. In that state, the thinking brain, the one that processes all your careful explanations, goes mostly offline. That's why speeches like, "We don't scream in this house," and "Use your words, not your hands," bounce right off during a tantrum. It's not that they're ignoring you. Their brain literally can't use that part of itself yet. Danish-style parenting starts with accepting this. A tantrum is not a tiny villain plotting against you. It's a small human completely overwhelmed by feelings they can't yet manage alone. Once you see it that way, the question shifts from, how do I shut this down, to how do I help their brain feel safe enough to come back online? And that's where the 30-second secret starts. Step 1 of the Danish secret, you go calm. First, this is the part nobody likes, but it's the most powerful. When your child explodes, your own nervous system reacts. Your heart races, your shoulders tense. You might feel anger, embarrassment, or panic, especially if you grew up in a home where big feelings were not welcome. In Denmark, there's a big focus on well-being and emotional health. That doesn't just apply to kids. Parents are encouraged to notice their own reactions and steady themselves first, because you can't lend calm you don't have. In practice, this looks incredibly simple. You take one slow breath. You remind yourself quietly, this is normal. My child is overwhelmed, not bad. You soften your face and your shoulders. You are not giving in. You are not approving the behavior. You're just deciding not to join the storm. That's a core theme in AAP parent guidance around tantrums and behavior. Your steadiness is part of the intervention. You're doing a tiny version of what Danish families do during hygge, those cozy, low-drama moments where everyone focuses on being together. Your child's feelings are loud. Your job is to be the quiet. Once you've taken that breath and grounded yourself, you're ready for the next move. Step 2, create safety without a lot of talking. Remember that during a tantrum, your child's thinking brain is mostly offline. Language and logic aren't landing. So the more you talk, even very wise, gentle words, the more noise you add. That's what a lot of parents fall into, the talking trap. You're upset because you wanted the toy. I know you can use your words. Calm down. It's not a big deal. All of that comes from love, but to a child in survival mode, it's just extra stimulus. Your moving face, your hands, your words can actually make their brain feel more threatened. Child psychiatry guidance for parents often recommends keeping your response simple and steady. Protect safety, stay calm, avoid long explanations in the peak of the tantrum. The Danish-style alternative is almost shockingly quiet. You get close enough to be present, but not in their face. You make sure they're safe, no hard edges, nothing to throw at a sibling, and then, if they can tolerate it, you gently say one simple thing like, "I'm here," and then you stop. You don't explain, you don't argue, You don't threaten a punishment or promise a reward. You let your calm body language do most of the work: relaxed shoulders, soft eyes, still hands. If your child is so overwhelmed that even seeing you makes them more upset, you can do what some pediatricians and Danish-style coaches suggest. Stay in the room, but just slightly out of their direct line of sight. Still present, still calm, but not looming. Your silent message is, your feelings are big, but they're not dangerous. You're safe. I'm not going anywhere. This is the opposite of ignoring. You're not walking away and hoping it stops. You're being a steady anchor while their emotional wave crashes. Often, if you can stay this quiet and grounded, you'll notice something change in under a minute. The screaming shifts to sobbing, the kicks slow down, their breathing starts to come down from sirens to sniffles. That's your opening. That's when the third piece of the Danish secret comes in, the bit that can turn the last of that tantrum around in about 30 seconds. Step 3. Flip the thinking brain. Back on. Once your child is past the absolute peak, not before, you can invite their thinking brain to wake back up. Here, you give them a tiny job that requires just a little bit of thinking, enough to nudge their brain out of pure emotion and into curiosity or problem solving. The key is that it has to be easy and concrete. One mom told a story about bedtime pajamas. Her toddler had thrown herself on the floor, refusing to wear anything. Full kicking, wailing, the works. Ignoring her wasn't an option because the child really did need something warm to sleep in. Instead of bargaining or scolding, the mom scooped her up and said very lightly, "We need to count these hair ties before bed. Help me see how many there are." And then she started counting out loud. 1, 2, 3. At first, her daughter was still hiccuping and crying. But by the time mom reached 6, the little brain had caught the pattern again. "No, you skipped one. 7, 8, 9. In less than half a minute, that child had shifted from pure emotional chaos to using her thinking brain, counting, correcting, joining in. Once that part of the brain is online, the body calms. After they finished, mom simply said that next they were going to brush teeth and then pick pajamas. The girl chose her pink dinosaur set without a fight. In lab brain imaging work on emotion regulation, simply putting feelings into words has been shown to reduce the brain's threat response and increase activity in areas linked to control and meaning-making. That's the 30-second secret. As soon as your child is slightly calmer, you offer a tiny thinking task. Help me count the blocks. Can you find 3 things in this room that are blue? How many cars do you think can fit in this doorway? Let's check. You're not distracting them with screens or sweets. You're engaging the part of their brain that was offline a moment ago. It's a quiet invitation back to control. For toddlers, this might be something as simple as patting a stuffed animal a certain number of times and then finding something rough instead of soft. For preschoolers, it might be 5 more slides and then we go home. Let's count them together. A huge number of tantrums aren't random. They hit right at transition points. Turning off the TV, leaving the park, coming to the table, getting in the bath. To an adult, that might feel like, why are you freaking out? We do dinner every single day. To a small child, it's exactly like being told to slam a good book shut right at the best part. One simple, very Danish feeling strategy is to look for natural breaks. Instead of, turn it off now, you time transitions to a pause that already exists in the activity. Dinner after the episode ends. Bath after all the dinosaurs have been fed. Home after 5 more turns on the slide. You can even make that natural break appear when you're short on time. Fast forward to the end of a show so only the last few minutes play. Set a timer and explain that when the bell rings, the game ends. Count down slides out loud so your child hears the end coming and can prepare themselves. Toddlers often accept timers and countdowns more easily than sudden commands. It feels less like an adult swooping in and more like, the time is up. It gives them a sense of control and a clear finish line. You're doing something very Danish here without even saying the word. You're respecting their inner world. You're inviting them to move from one thing to the next in a way that feels predictable and fair. And yes, even with perfect timing, some transitions will still trigger tears. In those moments, you go right back to the calm presence and tiny thinking job. But you'll likely notice that the intensity and length of those meltdowns start to shrink when the day feels less like a series of abrupt interruptions. There are a few things that seem helpful in the moment, but quietly make tantrums worse over time. One is giving in. If you've said, we're not buying a toy today, and then 10 minutes and 1 meltdown later, you're rolling out of the store with a dinosaur under your arm, your child's brain learns something very fast. If I explode, the rule moves. Danish-style parenting is gentle, but it's not about bending every limit. They're big on no harsh ultimatums, but they are also big on follow-through. Once you've made a decision, you hold it kindly. That consistency makes the world feel safer, even if your child doesn't like it at that moment. Another thing that doesn't help is ignoring the child completely. You can ignore the screaming itself, you don't argue with it, but ignoring the person, walking away as if they don't exist, leaves them alone with feelings they can't handle. Bribing with food has its own quiet downside. If a cookie always appears when your child is furious, their brain starts linking big emotion with, "I need something in my mouth to cope." That's not a pattern you want to build, and trying to reason in the heat of the meltdown doesn't work either. Save the next time lessons for later when you're both calm and maybe reading a story or looking at pictures of characters working through similar problems. The Danish way blends warmth and boundaries. Your message is, all feelings are okay, not all behaviors are. I will help you calm down, and I will still hold the limit. Let's put all of this together in one concrete everyday scene. Your toddler wanted the blue cup. The blue cup is in the dishwasher. You hand them the red cup and the world ends. They scream. They throw themselves on the floor. Maybe they swipe the cup away. First, you steady yourself. One breath. Quiet thought. This is the independence phase. They're overwhelmed, not evil. You gently move the cup out of the throwing range. You kneel or crouch nearby so you're not towering over them. If it feels right, you say one short sentence. You really wanted the blue cup. And then you stop. You don't justify it. You don't add, but. Your face stays as neutral and soft as you can manage. You stay right there, doing nothing flashy except breathing at a normal pace. Their body will fight that at first. The noise might even get louder. Then, usually, the wave peaks. The screams turn to sobs, or they pause to breathe. That's your 30-second window. You bring in a tiny thinking invitation. It might be, I need your help. Can you find 3 blue things in this room? Or if you want to stay close to the original problem, we don't have the blue cup, but there are 2 other cups. Do you want to pick the green one or the yellow one? A choice like that is simple, but it asks their thinking brain to wake up. Which one? It also gives them a small feeling of control back, which is what they were fighting for in the first place. If they're not ready to choose, you don't push it. You might shift to another easy job, counting the spoons on the table together or seeing how many steps it takes to walk to the fridge. You're still holding the limit, the blue cup is not suddenly appearing, but you're helping them walk out of the meltdown instead of dragging them. Over time, kids who get this kind of response regularly start to internalize it. They learn the pattern, feeling, wave, calm, tiny job, back to normal. That's emotional regulation, built one meltdown at a time. Everything gets harder when you add an audience. You're in the store. Your child sees something plastic and loud and immediately needs it. You say no. The meltdown arrives on schedule. In Denmark, kids are still kids, and they still scream in public. The difference is how adults handle social pressure. The priority stays the same: safety, respect, and calm, not performing good parenting for strangers. If you have space and a bit of time, you can do almost the same thing you do at home. Move to a quieter aisle, get down to their level. One simple acknowledgement, you wanted the toy, then silence and presence. When you see that tiny drop in intensity, you can give the same kind of choice you'd use elsewhere. We're not buying a toy, but you can help me find the cereal with the lion on the box or the one with the stars. It's another small thinking task and a redirect into something they actually can control. If you're on a clock, you need to get to school, you're blocking a doorway, or this is happening in the middle of a crossing, your only job is safety and a clear exit. You might say, "You're very upset we can't buy it. We have to go now. Do you want to walk or do you want me to carry you?" If they don't answer, you decide. You get them out of the street or the store, and you can do your calm presence and tiny thinking brain work once you're in a safe spot like the car or the sidewalk. You are allowed to leave abandoned groceries, stop conversations, and walk out of parks. You are not failing. You're showing your child that even in public, you mean what you say and you're in charge of their safety. The 30-second secret works best inside a bigger mindset, and that's where the Danish approach quietly helps. They protect long stretches of free, child-led play, so kids practice frustration, problem-solving, and bouncing back. They treat feelings as normal and name them in daily life. You're disappointed we're leaving. You're proud of your tower, so emotions are easier to spot before they explode. They skip harsh labels like dramatic or wild and look for the strength underneath. And they build small pockets of coziness, simple meals, games, stories, walks, so kids feel this is a safe place to be me. So when you want to use the Danish secret in the middle of a meltdown, here's the core in one line. You stay calm, you make it safe, and you give their brain something small to think about as the wave comes down. With a bit of practice, that can fit inside about 30 seconds. On the days it doesn't, you'll still feel less lost because you're not guessing anymore. You have a plan. You won't nail it every time. No parent does. The goal isn't to be calm 24/7. It's to keep coming back to calm so your child learns how to come back too. If you're still here, you probably have one tantrum in your mind. The blue cup, leaving the park, the pajamas, the toy aisle. Which part are you most curious to try next time? The silence, the tiny job, the natural break, or the way you talk to yourself about this phase? Tell me in the comments, because this whole season we're going deeper into calm parenting, from whining to sibling fights to bedtime battles, all through the same mix of brain science and gentle, firm boundaries. You don't need to become Danish to use this. You just start with one small change the next time your child flips their lid. You're not raising a perfectly behaved robot. You're raising a human who will one day handle their own big feelings. Every time you breathe, stay close, and help their thinking brain come back, you're already doing that job better than you think.